Ezra Hashem. Okay, so let us make everything clear. Today's daf, Be'ezras Hashem, is daf Yud Beis. Daf Yud Beis. But we're going to be starting from daf Yud Aleph, Umid Sheni, Umid Beis, 1, 2, 3, about 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 lines from the bottom, Mar Ukva. Okay, so let us just discuss a moment of what we're talking about over here. We are talking about the concept of, let's say you did an Avera and you want to do tshuva and you're making yourself a fast day. So the halacha is that you're supposed to accept the fast the day before you want to fast. So by mincha time, you would have accepted the fast for the next day. Now, technically speaking, the fast really starts at night, because suppose you go home and you eat supper and then you take a little, go to sleep. If you wake up in the middle of the night, you can't eat, because although normally the fast begins the next day, but really, technically, when you accepted the fast day starts at night. So you could eat your supper, and then after supper and after going to sleep, if you didn't make any condition, you wake up, you have to start your fast. So technically it's a day. So that's a normal way to make a fast day. But what happens, the Gemara is discussing, if a guy wakes up and he didn't eat, he was busy throughout the day, and by lunchtime he says, you know what, I want to make this day a fast and use it as a tshuva fast, whatever. So he didn't accept it from the day before. That's called misaneh l'sha'os. He made a fast he accepted the fast for a couple of hours. So for example, by 12 o'clock, he wakes up and says, you know what? I fasted the morning. I skipped breakfast. I'm going to make this day a fast. So we learned before that it's not only a fast, but you have to say anenu. So by mincha time, you would actually say anenu. So this is the discussion over here. Mar Ukva ikla leginzak. Mar Ukva went to this place called Ginzak. Boyamine, they asked him a question. And you see the amazing thing about the Amaroyim, they didn't have the answers for everything. They asked him a question. Misanin l'shois, is there such a thing called a tainis sha'os? Right? Can somebody get the reward of a fast day if he wakes up in the middle of the day and says, I want to fast the rest of the day? So the Gemara says, or there's no such a concept of misanin l'shois. In other words, you would have to make a fast a whole day and you have to accept it the day before. Other than that, it's not called a fast. They asked him that question. So the Gemara says, day. He didn't have the answer. So they asked Mar Ukva another question. Kankanim shel nochram, you have jugs belonging to Goyim, and they used to keep wine in there. Now, wine is yayin nesach, right? So the question is, if these are old jugs and nobody used them for years, they're empty jugs that you found somewhere. Asurin oy mutarm, am I permitted to use them or not? Because perhaps the yayin nesach is in the walls of this kli charetz, of this earthenware keli, and therefore it's going to seep in if I start using again, storing kosher wine in them. So he didn't know. Like have a bidet, he didn't have the answer to that. Then they asked him another question, not in Gemara, then asked him in Chumash. The Chumash says that during the 7 days of inauguration, Moshe was the Kohen Gadol and Aaron was training. So b'meh shimesh Moshe kol shivus yimei hamiluim. What kind of clothing did Moshe wear during the 7 day of Miluim? That's in Parshas Tzav, where Aaron obviously wore the big day kahuna, or getting ready to put on the big day kahuna, and Moshe was showing Aaron around that Moshe was the Kohen Gadol for those 7 days. Did he put on regular big day kahuna, or what did he have? Lo have a bidet, he had no answer for that. Now that question really shouldn't have such a nafkamina, but it's just, you have to understand the Chumash. So Azul Ushel Be Bidrasha. He humility, he went and asked in the Beis Medrash, what's their opinion? Amrulay, in the Beis Medrash, they told Mar Ukva, Hilkas, that the halach is misaneh l'shois, that you could make a fast day for a couple of hours. You can decide the fast, during the day that you want to make it a fast day. U'mispalel tefillas tanis, and you would say the ainenu. The Hilkas said the halach is kalkanin shel nachrim la'achashneim also chodesh mutarim. A goyish jug, after 12 months, it's permitted to use it. In other words, you don't even have to kosher it anymore, because after 12 months, there's no wine, or if there's any wine in the walls of this earthenware keli, it gives a detrimental taste to anything that's stored in that jug. So therefore, it's like after 12 months, you're permitted to use it without even koshering it. And your question is, this is going to blow you away. What did Moshe Rabbeinu use during the 7 days of inauguration of the Mishkan? What was he wearing? So the Gemara says, B'chaluk lavan. They answered him, he was wearing a white cloak, like what the Kohen Gadol would wear probably on Yom Kippur. And that was to demonstrate to the people that although Moshe is the Kohen Gadol for now, he's only a temporary Kohen Gadol. Rav Kahana masn la b'chaluk lavan shein lo imra, that they gave Moshe Rabbeinu a white cloth made out of one stitch, one string, so to speak. It was one piece. But the most important part is she'ein lo imra. It had no pockets or no hem. Now, why didn't they have a hem or a pocket in there? So Rashi says, Kedei shaloi yachshiduhu shema ba'ois safahu moitzi ma'ois hakodesh. So people shouldn't accuse Moshe Rabbeinu. Maybe he's sticking some money into the hem, into the pocket. And a person, mishum shenama v'yisim nikiyim Hashem Yisrael. A person has to be totally innocent. That Jewish people can't accuse you for anything wrongdoing. So Moshe Rabbeinu had to wear sort of like a prison guard, lahavdil. So as the clothing, so there could be somebody who's a Baal Lashon Hara would say, hey, Moshe Rabbeinu is taking money out of the Mishkan. So amazing. Rav Chizda said, we go to Daf Yomi Taanis Daf. That what we said, Nisanin l'sha'os, that you're allowed to make a fast for a couple of hours. Now here the Gemara understood that means a guy decided, they misunderstood what this means, Nisanin l'sha'os. A guy decided the night before or the day before that he only wants to fast until lunchtime. So then he said, Rav Chizda said, that doesn't work. What do you mean he's fasting only till lunchtime? That's not called a taanis. It only works if you completed the day and did not fast and did not eat at all that day. But just to say that you want to fast till lunchtime, that doesn't work. Abaye said, that's obvious. If you didn't eat the rest of the day, even though you accepted that you were only going to eat, you will only fast till lunchtime, but you decided, somebody told you the halacha, that's not a fast, and you decided not to eat the rest of the day, that's a great taanis. I mean, you don't need Rav Chizda to tell you that if you didn't eat the rest of the day, that's a taanis. So the Gemara says, Rav Chizda's chiddush is the opposite case. The imlach imluche. The guy changed his mind. He started the morning off. He went to work and he thought he's going to eat late brunch or something like that. And then he decided, you know what? I skipped the breakfast. I skipped lunch. Might as well make this a fast day. So Rav Chizda said that if you continue the rest of the day and don't eat, and you accepted that for the rest of the day you're not going to eat, that's called a taanis sha'os, right? And therefore you can, by mincha time, you say anenu, basically. Even though you started the day, you didn't think you were going to make it a fast day, but you could make it a fast day, even after the day started. V'yam Rav Chizda. Rav Chizda said that's the most important point. Kol tanish shaloi shaka olav chama. If you don't fast for the rest of the day, that means you didn't fast until sunset. Lav shmei tanis. That's not called a tanis. You can't make a fast day up until 2:00 in the afternoon, or something like that. That doesn't work. That's not called a taanis that you will get the reward of fasting for, let's say you're using it for a forgiveness. As we learned, that using fasting is a forgiveness for something. That doesn't work. So the Gemara says like this, Meisvei, I'll ask you a question. The Brisa says, Anshe Mishmar, people who work in the Beis HaMikdash, we'll call them Mishmar people, Misanin, they would fast when the rest of the tzibur was fasting. Let's say the whole Jewish people are fasting because it didn't rain in Israel. So they would, if they're working in the Beis HaMikdash, they fasted also, but they didn't complete the fast. So the fact that the Brisa calls it their fasting, it means that you could call something a fast, even though you're not going to finish out the day fasting, because they would eat middle of the day, because since they're working in the Beis Hamikdash, they get a special leniency not to, finish off the fast. But the Brisa still calls it a fast. So we see from there that a person, it's called a fast, even though you're not fasting the entire day. So the Gemara says, Hassam, that's different. It's not really they were fasting, but what they were doing, these people who were working in the Beis Hamikdash, they wanted to show with the tzibur that they're also in stress. Not that they got reward of fasting, but they have to show the tzibur that they're in stress as well. And this goes for any, this is halach in anything, a choyle lo yaleinu, that cannot fast on the regular fast days. So he shouldn't just sit down with in a pizza shop and enjoy himself. No, but you have to pretend that you're feeling the stress of the rest of the people. Tashma, the same question. The Omer Rabbi Lezer ben Abtzodik. Rabbi Lezer ben Abtzodik said, and he lived after the Beis Hamikdash was around. He lived way after the Beis Hamikdash. And he said like this, Ani bebnei bonav shel Sena'ov ben Binyamin. I am from the grandchildren of Sena'ov, and we're from Shevet Binyamin. This family was a special family. What did they do? When they were building the second Beis Hamikdash, they didn't have funds, and they didn't even have wood. So his family donated wood in the second Beis Hamikdash. On the 10th of Av, they made a special donation. And in honor of that donation, it was declared that throughout the second Beis Hamikdash, every 10th of Av, this family, Sana family, would come up to the Beis Hamikdash and offer up they would take wood and gift it to the Mizbeach, and they used that wood on the Mizbeach. In fact, they used that wood on the Mizbeach. They made a whole carbon out of it. Believe it or not, they actually brought these pieces of wood to touching the Mizbeach. Then they shaved it down a little bit, and they made a kamitz on it and threw some of it on the Mizbeach. And then they used it as firewood on the Mizbeach. So although there's firewood, there's plenty of firewood in the storage of the Beis Hamikdash, they had the holiday, a special holiday, that their day that they were giving wood for the Mizbeach was used on the Mizbeach. If anybody came to donate wood on the Mizbeach, it was not necessarily thrown on the Mizbeach, because if we had enough wood on the Mizbeach, they wouldn't take your wood. But because of a holiday that they declared for the Sanav, in remembrance of that early donation that they gave when the Beis Hamikdash started, the whole family had a special holiday on Yom Tiv, like a regular Yom Tiv, on the 10th of Av. So he says a story. Upam achas, one time, chol tes ba'av lios b'Shabbos. Tisha B'Av came out on Shabbos, udechinu la'achat Shabbos, and they pushed it off till Sunday. Basically, they pushed Tisha B'Av till the 10th of Av, and everybody was fasting. This anenu boy, we started to fast, but it's a Yom Tiv for us. We never completed the fast because it's our Yom Tiv that day, and because it's our Yom Tiv, we used to donate wood on the Mizbeach during the time of the Beis Hamikdash, and this Rabbi Lezer ben Abtzodik holds that these holidays, although they're written in Megillas Taanis, even after the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, they still have an effect. They still have their power. And therefore, it's a Yom Tiv. Therefore, we didn't have to fast on Tisha B'Av. We had to start the fast. So again, the question is, the Brisa says they started the fast. So is it called a fast? We see that even if you do a partial fast, that's still called a fast. So the Gemara says, Hasam Nami, that also, let's say, Urei Nafshei Ba'almahu. They were just joining into the group. Everybody's fasting Tisha B'Av. They were joining in to show that they are in stress as well. But it doesn't mean that they got the reward of somebody fasting because they only fasted a couple of hours. Again, Tashma coming here. Fascinating story. The Omer Rabbi Yochanan used to say, "Ehei b'tainis ad she'ovei lebesi." I'm going to be a faster until I come home. Let's say he went to shul and he said, until I come home 2:00 in the afternoon, I'm a tanis. So we see that you could use the word tanis even if you're not fasting the entire day. He see Rabbi Yochanan said, I'm a faster until I got home for lunchtime. So the Gemara says that's not the reason. Hassam, the reason why he called it a fast is to get people off his back. The president of the Jewish people wanted to eat lunch with him. Either Rabbi Yochanan did not want to eat lunch with them. He didn't want to bother them, and he didn't want to waste his time being there. So he used to say that I can't go to lunch with the Bein Nasiya, with the president of the Jewish people, the Nasi, because I declared a fast till late in the afternoon. So because he did it, so it wasn't really a fast. He just used the word fast, but he didn't mean that he gets the reward of a fast. New Gemara, and again, the halachas that we've discussing. Again, somebody wants to have the reward of a fast. He wants to fast for an avera that he did. So Amar Shmuel said, Kol tanis shloikibel olam mibayim. Any tanis that you didn't accept from the day before, lav shmei tanis. You don't get the reward of tanis. And you have to kitshu stuff. You have to say what it says in the Sidurim. I'm celebrating tomorrow as a fast day, for a personal fast day. And that's darshan from psukim that we might see today. The Yosef Mai, if you decide you didn't accept the fast, you just didn't eat that day. The next day, you're like a bellows that's full of air. In other words, your stomach is empty, but you're not getting the reward of fasting. Now comes the question, Amos Makabale, that's the question. When should I accept the fast for the following day? Rav says, B'mincha. Rav says, do it in the afternoon, but Rav doesn't mean the afternoon. He means you could do it any time that you want. It means, let's say today is Wednesday, right? So I could have accepted the fast for next week, Tuesday, and that's fine. Shmuel Amar, no. Shmuel says, no, it doesn't work. I can't do it so way in advance. I have to go betfilas hamincha. By the mincha prior to the fast, that's when I could accept the fast. Okay, like we have in the Sidurim, but in the mincha, by you look in the Siddur mincha, you'll see right by the Kain Etzar, if it says there in the bottom, if you want to accept the fast upon yourself, say the following. So that's why the halach is. Amar Rav Yosef, According to Shmuel, it makes perfect sense. The Ksiv b'Megillas Taanis, it says in this book of Megillas Taanis. Just to remind you, this Megillas Taanis was a book of 36 holidays that the Chachamim invented, so to speak, including them Chanukah and Purim. It was the first time Torah Shebiksav that was written down, Torah Shebal Peh was written down. And these are holidays to celebrate that the Yidden was saved from certain bad things. And it was declared as a holiday that sometimes you're not allowed to fast. All of them you're not allowed to fast, but in some of them you're not allowed to even have a hesped on, no eulogy, like Purim and Chanukah. So it says in that Megillas Taanis. By the way, the book is brought in the end of Masechet Taanis. Probably in your Masechet, it's in the back there. It has 12 chapters there. Each month is a chapter. Lehen, therefore, kol inish yesa aloy mekadmis dana yeser. If a person accepted upon himself a fast before the holiday, yeser, then he should keep his fast day. So that's what the Brisa says. The Megillas Taanis says, don't fast on my holiday. But if the instructions is that if you accept it upon a fast prior to the holiday, then you should not eat on the holiday. My love, what does it mean? You yeser, you assered yourself. Yeser means you actively declared it a fast. My love, doesn't the Megillas Taanis prove that yeser asmei bitzlu, that you're assering yourself during Shemoneh Esrei on the mincha prior to, like Shmuel said. Because that's what yeser means. You did an active role of assering it. So the Gemara says, loy, that's not what that's not the right text in the Megillas Taanis. It says, yo'aser atzmoi. It means you automatically are not permitted to eat. It doesn't mean that you actively say that you want to make a Taanis prior, but you automatically, if you accepted a month ago before let's say Chanukah. If a month before Chanukah you said you're going to fast, automatically it becomes usher to you. So it's no raya according to Rav or Shmuel that expression in the Megillas Taanis. And pligi baha, it's exactly the same achloikis. What was the girsa in the Megillas Taanis? Rab Chia v'Rab Shimon b'Rebbe. Chad Omar, one says yesar. What the Megillas Taanis was saying, that if you want to fast on those holidays, yesar, you have to do an active role of assering yourself from eating by saying during mincha time, the next day, I want to fast. It automatically becomes usher. If you accept it on that day, months before that you're going to fast, then it automatically becomes usher. You don't have to actively do something the day before the holiday. It's automatically, if you did it months before and said, I'm going to fast that day, you're automatically usher. Mandi also yeser, the one that said yeser kedamrinan. like we just explained. You have to answer yourself the day before the fast. What is the point of saying that you automatically become usher? What's that teaching me? I would think that's obvious. If you accepted that this would be a fast a month before, then when that day comes, if it's a holiday, you should not eat. That's not true. That's not always true. The Tanya b'Megillas Taanis, it depends. Kol inish the Brisa says like this. It depends. If you decided that you're going to fast the entire year, let's say a guy, person said, every Monday and Thursday I'm fasting, no matter what. And during one of those Mondays, Thursday throughout the year, you have a Yom Tiv coming, the Yom Tiv that's written in Megillas Taanis. So it depends. In Nidroi Koidim L'Gzeira Seinu, if your neder came before they invented the holiday, let's say the holiday was invented after you made your promise. Your promise overrides the holiday. In other words, since your promise to fast came prior to the holiday, the establishment of the holiday, then you have to keep your neder. If our establishment of the holiday came before your neder, then it doesn't matter. Then our holiday overrides your promise, so it doesn't automatically become usher. That's the chiddush. It depends. It depends when they established the holiday. If you accept it upon your fast, and then all of a sudden, say the War of Independence happened, and they established the holiday, so you still have to fast during the War of Independence holiday because you were makabel taanis prior to the invention of the holiday. But if it was reversed, the holiday came first, then your neder will not override the holiday. Good new Gemara. Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, Ad Mosai Oichel V'Shoisha. A guy, you makabel taanis. So in the morning, you're supposed to start a fast. Like every fast day, we start in the morning. Till when could I eat? In other words, if I'm staying up a whole night, how long can I eat? So the Mishnah says, the Brisa says, Ad Sheyala Amar Shacha, till the dawn. Divrei Rebbe, these are the words of Rebbe. Rebbe Lezer, Reb Shimon Oima Ad Kroisa Geva. You have to go a little bit before dawn. Let's say before Aloisa Shacha, to the first crow of the rooster. Amar Abaya. Abaya said, Loishanu, this was not taught that you could eat until Aloisa Shacha. Ela Shaloi Gama Sudasa. You didn't finish supper. You had this massive long supper throughout the night. Fine. The next by Aloisa Shachar, you can't eat anymore. Aval Goma Sudasai, you didn't eat, you finished your meal, supper, that's it. Eina Oichel, you cannot eat anymore. That's it. Your taanis sort of begins after supper. So the Gemara says, Eisvei Rava, Rava asked the question. The Brisa says, Gomar ba'omad, you finished your supper and you stood up from the meal. Hareza Oichel, you could continue to eat even though the next day is fast. And here it says, you finished your supper. What's the difference? So Gemara says, Hossam, that price is talking about kishaloi silet. You finished eating, but they didn't remove your placemat, so to speak. They used to have these like little tables, and the top of the table was like a placemat. If they didn't remove that placemat, so it's not considered like you finished supper. You stopped eating, but it's not considered like you finished supper. So then you can continue after if you decide to eat further, you can continue to eat. But if they've totally removed your table and totally removed your mat and cleaned up from supper, according to Abaya, one is not allowed to eat anymore that night. Ika de Amrei, Amarava, this is more familiar. Loishanu, we didn't teach us that you can eat the whole night. Ela kishlo yashen, if you didn't sleep. Aval yashen, if you went to sleep, ein oichel, you're not allowed to eat anymore. That's why they tell you before, let's say, Asara B'Teves, which is coming up, they'll tell you that if you want to break your fast, if you happen to be someone that wakes up in the middle of the night, so before you go to sleep, make a condition that you're not accepting the fast until the morning. You have to say it before, so that if you wake up in the middle of the night, you can have a bowl of cereal. But if you totally went to sleep and then you woke up in the middle of the night, then you can't eat anymore. Eisvei Abaya, Abaya asked the question. The Brisa says, Yoshan, if you did go to sleep, Ahmad, and you got up, you could continue to eat. So how do you resolve that? So the Gemara says, that's not difficult. Hossam, that's talking about you didn't really go to sleep. Bimisna name, you took a nap or like a light sleep. What's called a little nap or a doze off. We'll call it a doze off. What Amar Rabashi said, we go to Amad Beis, Nim v'loy dim, you're sleeping but not really sleeping. Tir v'loy tir, you're awake and they're not really awake. The correlate, they call you your name, but you can answer it. They don't know how to answer with logic. If they remind you, mitka, you'll remember. In other words, if they would ask you, where did you put the car keys? You wouldn't now be able to tell them that you put it into the bowl. But if they remind you, is the car keys in the bowl? You'll be able to tell them. That type of a little sleep where you're half up, half sleeping, that's not a sleeping that interrupts that you would, when you wake up, you would really would be allowed to continue to eat. The only time that Rava said that if you go to sleep and you're really in a deep sleep, when you wake up already, even if it's the middle of the night, you're not allowed to eat anymore. New Gemara, Amarav Tahan Amarav, Yochid Shekibal of Taanis, also B'Sila Sasando. A Yochid, he said, I'm going to fast tomorrow. Okay, he did everything right. He's not allowed to put on his shoes. Why? Because Chayshinim, we're very concerned. Shema Tanas Tziba Kibal. Maybe he wasn't clear in what he was accepting upon himself, and maybe he said himself, "I'm going to accept something like Tisha B'av to me tomorrow," and therefore he's not allowed to put on shoes. He's probably not allowed to do any of the rechitza, take a shower, and go, and nila sasanda and rechitza, tashmishmita, sicha, hey chilavet. So how does one get around this? I mean, what should you do not to accept upon yourself a tainis tzibur? You have to say the following nusach. Lemachar, tomorrow lefanecha betanis yochid. I'm only accepting a personal tanis. It's not a tzibur tanis. A tzibur tanis, I would. So since it's a personal tanis, you don't have to keep the 5 inuyim like you do on Tisha B'av and Yom Kippur. So that's what you have to say, and that's exactly what it says in the Siddur. You have to say, It's a personal tanis. Amrilei Rabbanan Rav Sheshes. Rabbanan said to Rav Sheshes. Now, this is another story that they were geyser tanis in Bavel. Okay, and when the geyser tanis in Bavel, it's a tzibur fasting. If it's a tzibur fasting, we're going to learn later in the Mishnayos that when the tzibur starts fasting in Israel for no rain, perhaps no one's allowed to put shoes on. You're not allowed to do the 5 inuyim. So they told the Rabbanan, told Rav Sheshes, that although it's a tzibur fasting in Bavel, I see the rabbis, they're putting on shoes and they're coming to the shul to daven for the fast. But you're not allowed to put shoes on. Ikbid. So Rav Sheshes was upset at these rabbanim. He said, maybe they ate the night before, which if it's a tainis tzibur, you're not allowed to even eat the night before, like Tisha B'av. But not everybody holds like that. We learned yesterday that Shmuel is of the opinion. Shmuel had this opinion that there's no such a thing of tainis tzibur. No matter how bad the situation is, we don't make anything like Tisha B'av. Nothing is Tisha B'av. If, for example, if the 5-town community decide to declare a fast, it would only be a fast that you fast during the daytime, but it wouldn't start at night in the 5 inuyim. That only is reserved for Tisha B'av, and that's for everybody argues on Rav Sheshes. But the Gemara says that even if they declared a fast day outside in Bavel, Abai v'Rava ma'ile kimsamda apanda, they would wear shoes that didn't have a top to it, so to speak. So they wore funny shoes just to show extra tsar, even though they didn't have to. They would take the right shoe, put it on the left foot, and the left foot put on the right foot, just to be a little bit more uncomfortable on a tainis tzibur. And Rabbanan, the Bei Rav Ashi Nafki Kurchei, Rabbanan and the rest of the yeshiva of Rav Ashi went out normally. They wore shoes on regular tainis tzibur. They held like what Shmuel said, Ein tainis tzibur, babavel el Tisha B'av. There's only a tainis tzibur that has the 5 inuyim is only something in Bavel, nothing else. Any other tanis that we have, even if it was declared by the rabbis, it would not involve the chamishi inuyim. The fast would start during the daytime, and throughout the day you can shower, shave, whatever you want, do sicha during the day. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav another halacha about these personal fasts. A guy started the fast, okay? And he said, he's doing tshuva and he's doing a fast. He did everything right, accepted it the day before. And then he realizes that, he's fainting. He can't finish the fast. So he could eat And he'll say, I'll fast another day. Maybe I'll wait till winter time to fast. That's what it says. Loiva odom tanisu pareya. A person could borrow his tanis. In other words, push it off and make it up another day. Even though he committed that he was going to fast the night before, the day before, he's going to fast this day. If he started the fast and it's not working out, or it's not going to fit into his busy schedule, so then he could push it off. Kamri said that Kamei de Shmuel Amali, he said, when I told this halacha in front of Shmuel, what Rav said, he said that's obvious. Did he say a promise that he has to fast and no matter what? Let's say Ure Nafshi Kibale. When a person accepts a fast, he says, one day I'm going to put myself in stress. So Imot say Mitzarem Nafshi. If it's possible to do it that day, fine. The Eloi Motzei Loi Mitzar Nafshi. But if he can't do it, then he doesn't have to put himself at stress that day. He was makabel. One day he's going to put himself in stress. Even though he said, I want to do it tomorrow, that's just trying to say that I think I could do it tomorrow. But it's not like a neder that you have to do it tomorrow. If you decide during the day that it's not working out, you can make it up another day. Others say, Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, Loiva Odom Tanisoy Upayreya. A person can borrow the fast and pay it up and make it up another time. Kamri says, Kamei Shmuel, he said, Amalei, Pshita, right? Pshita, Shmuel said the opposite. Lo Yehe El Neder. You made a promise. You've promised that you're fasting that tomorrow. Neder mi ma'lotzim ba l'shmu meiz l'mocha yom achrina. Can a neder, you can move it from one day to another day? Is it possible? It's a neder. You made a promise for that day. You can't once you committed for that day, you have to stick with it no matter what. The Gemara says like this, and this is interesting. Rav Yeshua berei de Rav Idi ikla lebei Ravasi. Yeshua berei Rav Idi went to the house of Ravasi. Ravasi is a great gadol, and he was a guest. Avdeleit eglit tlilsa. They made him a calf, a beautiful steak of a calf that was 3 years old, the third one born from its mother. It was a real prime A. Amrulay, they asked him to Rav Yeshua, Litem Marmidi, why don't you eat? Amalei, he said, Batanisi Yasevna, I am fasting. Amrulay, Veloisus Mavalifra, you should push off your fast and make it up another time. So he said, that you don't have to fast that day. If something comes up, you can make it up another day. And here's your opportunity to eat with Ravasi. You're a guest in the Gadol Ravasi's house. Although you made a commitment that you were going to fast, you should make it up another day and just enjoy the meal because it's like a Sudas mitzvah. Amalahu, he said, Tanis Chaloimu. I had a bad dream the night before. Now here's interesting. The Tanis Chaloim, you don't have to accept it the night before. Obviously, you don't know if you're going to have a dream. If a person has a bad dream, the next morning is the only exception. You could say, I'm fasting. Because by fasting, it's like sort of you're trying to undo the bad dream. And that we learned in Masechta Brachos that there's some benefit to that. The Gzeira could be ripped up right away if you fast after having a bad dream. So he said, I had a bad dream, and therefore I want to fast no matter what. Rav said, Yofa Tanas Lachaloim Ke'esh Eres. Tanis is so beautiful for a dream, for a bad dream, and it can get rid of bad dreams effects. Ke'esh, like a fire, the Eres that gets rid of flax. Flax is flammable, and the fire can get rid of it right away. A fast for a bad dream is very important. It gets rid of the effects of the bad dream, and the Gezerah will not happen. Rav Chizda said, but you have to fast the following day after you have the bad dream. Rav Yosef says, even in Shabbos, you have to fast for a bad dream. Hey, Shabbos, you're not allowed to fast. So you're doing it a big avera by fasting, because if Shabbos, you have to cross the Shabbos oining. The pasuk says, midrabanan, your person has to eat. So how do you do a tshuva for fasting on Shabbos? Tanisa. You're supposed to have a fast on Sunday because you fasted on Shabbos. I don't mean dafka Sunday. You can have it on Monday, but generally you have to make another fast to do tshuva on the vera that you did fasting for Shabbos. And why did you fast on Shabbos? Because you had a bad dream. Although you're supposed to fast on Shabbos, but maybe you did something wrong, so you had the bad dream Friday night. So that's the sugya of bad dreams. I don't think this, it's not common so much because a lot of our dreams are caused because we have a lot of media coming into our brains. And so that's not considered like a bad dream that God's talking to you. It could be you're dreaming a bad dream because of what you see on in the media. So that's but you see the concept of the fasting for bad dreams. One more. Let's just do the Mishnah and we'll finish the 2-minute Mishnah. Avru elu v'lo nanu bezdin goizrim gimel tanias acheres al tzibur. If the first 3 fasts didn't work out, and there's still no rain in Israel, then the bezdin make a gzeira, another 3 fasts for the tzibur. But here it's like Tisha B'av. You can only eat the day before, and by supper of the day before, while it's still light time, that's when you have to have like the Sudas Hamafsekes. Not only that, Vasurim b'malacha, you're not allowed to do work. Rechitza, you're not allowed to wash. V'sicha, you're not allowed to smear yourself for tanig, like with oil, or like massage oil or something like that. Uvidi'ila sasanda, you're not allowed to put on shoes. Utash b'shemita, relations with your wife. They would close all the bathhouses in the city. Fine. Let's say after these 3 sets of fast didn't work out. In other words, they would fast every Monday, Thursday, Monday. And if they didn't get rain, they would declare another Monday, Thursday, Monday fast. What happens if these were not answered? You have another 7. So you have a total of 13. 7 plus 3 plus the 3 in the previous Mishnah. There's 13 tiniest on Sibba. These are even more severe than the first one. They would actually blow shofar, or we'll see what that means. All shops were closed, even supermarkets, food stores. But Pasheni, on a Monday fast, when it's almost dark outside, the supermarket opens up a little bit. But on Thursday, the supermarkets were open the whole day. Because it's the honor of Shabbos, people need to still buy food for Shabbos. Let's say they went through the 13 series of fasts and they still didn't get any rains. So they don't make the tzibur fast anymore. That's it. No more fast days. But mamat and mamasamatin, everybody curbs the business. They close the stock market early. The binyan, uvenatiya, allowed to build all construction projects, uvenatiya planting, be'erisin, and getting engaged, and marriage. We'll see all that in the Gemara. People don't say hello to each other. And people who are excommunicated by Hashem. But nevertheless, Hayechidim, the Gedolim B'Yisrael, Choyzer Mesanin at Sheyetze Nisan. They would continue fast until the end of Nisan. Yotzin Nisan, the Yardu Geshamim, if after Nisan came and no rain came, and then all of a sudden rain comes, Slim and Klal, you should know that's even a worse sign than not having rain at all. Shmuel said, you're asking me if we are a king? I'll prove it to you that it's a bad idea to ask me for a king, because it's now and I'm going to make it rain, even though it's not a good time to have it rain. So that was like the demonstration of Klala, having it rain in Tanakh during So that's what the Mishnah says. If it rains after Nisan and it did not rain before, that's a Siman Klala. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Baruch.
Okay. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, Baruch.
Ja, shikoyer.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Baruch, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Very good.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Oh, yeah.